From the Southern Bureau of RT America in Miami, Florida. Hello again, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez. Tonight, there's a very important question that is searching for a very important answer here in the United States of America. But it's a question that could also have repercussions worldwide. And here's essentially the question. Does Nicolas Maduro, the elected president of Venezuela, despite what the U.S. believes or his opposition believes, does he have the right to choose who will be his ambassador to the United States? Or does the United States have the right to pick Venezuela's ambassador? And let me explain it to you this way. Imagine if tomorrow President Vladimir Putin of Russia or President Xi Jinping of China decided to kick out the U.S. ambassador and they replaced him with somebody else. For example, let's say the Chinese, they don't like Mr. Trump. And they argue that because Trump wasn't elected by a majority of the American people, which he wasn't, they will now put in his place, or pardon me, they will now put in place an ambassador in Beijing that answers to Hillary Clinton or answers to Nancy Pelosi. Well, tonight, critics of U.S. policy toward Venezuela are arguing that it appears that that's what's going on, with the U.S. doing that with respect to Venezuela. Let me take you through the story a little more. You see that guy right there? All right, that's Carlos Vecchio. He is to President Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela what Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton are to President Trump. Maybe more so. He is the opposition. But that is who the U.S. wants to deal with when it comes to Venezuela. Never mind what Maduro wants. Now, Vecchio was chosen by this guy. That, of course, is U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who may be absolutely certain that Vecchio is a great lawyer and a great activist, and he may very well be a great lawyer and a great activist. But the real reason Secretary Pompeo has chosen Mr. Vecchio as Venezuela's charge d'affaires is because he's on the record as a sworn enemy of President Maduro. This story goes beyond Venezuela. This story comes down to a question of diplomacy, right, from a global perspective, and it makes one wonder if it's a precedent that could come back then to haunt us, the United States, if other countries decide to ignore our ambassadors and replace them with their preferred choice. This is The News with Rick Sanchez, where we ask questions like these because we believe it's time to do news again. We're going to begin, though, tonight with the ever-constant battle brewing between Washington and Caracas, which is now encroaching the diplomatic corps as well. Washington argues that Maduro is not good for Venezuela and has therefore replaced publicly him with their choice as leader, Juan Guaido. Well, of course, you know about Mr. Guaido. But here is today's news. Here's the new wrinkle. The U.S. now is also replacing the Venezuelan ambassador to the United States from Venezuela and put instead a Maduro opposition leader, as aforementioned, Carlos Vecchio. We begin tonight with RT correspondent Dan Cohen, who helps sort this all out for us.
This quiet street is the latest battleground for Venezuela, a country thousands of miles away, and opposition leader Juan Guaido's representatives are planning to seize control of this building, the military attaché. Carlos Vecchio is Juan Guaido's so-called ambassador to the United States. Before entering the military attaché's building, he took control of another nearby building owned by the Venezuelan government. He was able to do so simply by calling a locksmith and, perhaps more importantly, receiving the blessing of the U.S. State Department.
They destroy everything. So that's what they have done here. So basically they destroyed this house. And again, this is an asset that belonged to the Venezuelans, and they, instead of preserving the assets, I mean, you saw what they did. And so imagine if they do this here in the U.S., you can imagine what they are doing in Venezuela.
Outside the military attaché's building, Vecchio raised the Venezuelan flag and sang the national anthem, drowning out code-pink protesters chanting, "Hands off Venezuela." Inside the building, Vecchio replaced a portrait of elected President Nicolas Maduro with one of Guaido. It's not the first time the U.S. has recognized alternative figures in place of an existing government. In 2011, Washington did the same in Syria, And 7 years later, Bashar al-Assad is still in power. I asked Vecchio why this time would be different.
I don't have any doubt that Venezuela is ready for a change. The change will come. It hasn't come because we have a dictatorship in Venezuela. We have a dictator that is willing to kill the people in order to keep privilege, but that will be the end.
Juan Guaido is being investigated in Venezuela for allegedly sabotaging the country's electrical system. Asked what would happen if he were arrested, Vecchio said it would be a step in the right direction.
I would say that will have positive impact in the change in Venezuela. That will accelerate the change if they decided to do it.
Meanwhile, Vecchio is setting his sights on the Venezuelan embassy and may seize that building as early as Wednesday. In Washington, Dan Cohen, RT.
I'm Rick Sanchez. You found us on YouTube, and that's awesome. But you know what? I'm also live every night at 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern on DirecTV and Dish and cable and satellite, the RT app, and Pluto TV. I'll see you there.